Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Sarah Silverman, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you today to talk to you about my favorite topic, healthy sleep. As we get started, if you have any questions about sleep, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as they come in and hopefully get to all of that. Alrighty, so as I mentioned, my name is Dr. Sarah Silverman, and I am a sleep psychologist and holistic sleep wellness consultant. I primarily see a wide variety of sleep disorders in private practice, and I usually try to help folks manage their sleep problems from more of a non-medication perspective. So drug-free approaches to really improving sleep. Now, today I'm going to talk to you all about healthy sleep and aging, and I hope you all are enjoying the Be Bold Healthy Aging Summit so far. Now, today's discussion has a couple objectives. First and foremost, I want to talk to you about healthy sleep, what that looks like, then get into some normal age-related sleep changes, also share with you some common sleep problems that happen as we get older, what healthy versus poor sleep is all about, and then leave you with some actionable steps to sleep well. So first and foremost, what is sleep? Sleep is a dynamic behavior, and it's not simply the absence of waking. Sleep is so dynamic that as scientists, we still have only barely scratched the surface in terms of what sleep is and what function it serves. We know that sleep is a biological process, meaning we cannot control it, just like we can't control when we're hungry. You know, our body's going to tell us when we should eat. Our body is also going to tell us when we need to sleep. Sleep is distinguished from being in a coma, which is total unconsciousness, you can't wake someone up from. And sleep is also distinguished from being awake because there's this decreased ability to be able to react to external stimuli. So we can't really react to our environment while we're sleeping. When we sleep, usually our eyes close and our consciousness is either partially or completely lost. There's also a decrease in our bodily movements. A lot happens while we sleep. And again, we really have just started to scratch the surface in terms of what sleep does for us, but we know that it's a highly elaborate, very organized process. It's active, and it's not just a simple turning off of the brain. The brain stays very active while we sleep. Our sleep stages. These are, of course, the foundation of our healthy sleep. And you've probably heard of REM sleep before, rapid eye movement sleep, aka dream sleep. We also have 3 stages of non-REM or non-dream sleep, which we'll get into. And wakefulness. I really like to highlight wakefulness as part of the process of sleep because it is actually considered a normal part of sleep and our sleep biology. There's this big misperception about sleep that we should be totally unconscious and not wake up at all during the night, when in fact most adults wake up several times during the night. They just don't realize it because those awakenings are so brief. So as far as the non-REM stages or non-rapid eye movement or non-dream sleep, stage 1 is considered the lightest stage of sleep. And in this stage, you can be woken up very easily. Sometimes people will describe this as kind of a half awake stage. They're kind of in and out of sleep. And what's interesting about this stage of sleep is that you could be sleeping, but you could still have a sense of where your bed partner is. You can hear your bed partner. You can maybe hear what you're watching on TV, or you can maybe smell things. So we could be sleeping, but we still have all of our 5 senses available to us during this stage of sleep. Our muscle activity slows, but we're still kind of have the ability to perceive our environment. And this is sometimes the sleep that you will get if you end up falling asleep during a movie or watching TV, as an example. Stage 2 sleep is still considered a light stage of sleep, but it's getting a little bit deeper. Brain waves start to slow, heart rate slows, breathing slows down as well. And we actually spend the majority of our night of sleep in this stage. So most of our night is spent in stage 2 light sleep. And lastly, the third stage of sleep, considered deep sleep. This is where our brain produces slow waves. Our muscle activity is limited. We don't have eye movement, which is characteristic of REM sleep. Our breathing definitely halts and slows down, and it's very difficult to wake someone up from deep sleep. This is really where total unconsciousness is reached. REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, considered dream sleep. This is where most of our dreaming does happen, and it's a very active stage of sleep. There's also a big misperception about REM sleep, that it's a deep stage of sleep. REM sleep is actually not considered a deep stage of sleep. It's most similar to being fully awake because it's so active. And the brain waves that we see on a sleep study show us this. So it's a restorative stage of sleep, and a lot happens during REM sleep, but it's a different process in the brain. Our breathing rate increases. We have the fast eye movement, which is where the term comes from. Our heart rate also increases, and our arms and legs are paralyzed while we're entering REM and in REM sleep. Lastly, wakefulness is considered a normal part of the process of sleep. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, most of us have sleep cycles that are anywhere from about 90 to 120 minutes in length. And after we complete a full sleep cycle, we end up waking up. So most of us are waking up 5+ times every single night. We just don't realize it because those awakenings are so brief. But takeaway from this is that wakefulness is usually a normal part of the process of sleep for everybody. Now, the National Sleep Foundation published these sleep duration recommendations for us to kind of have a guide as to how many hours of sleep we should be getting across the lifespan. Now, this graph here shows newborns all the way to older adults. And the bolded hours is going to be the average amount of sleep duration for each of those age groups. But also I want to highlight the range of numbers in parentheses next to the bold hours there. So that range of numbers is actually the low and high range of sleep need. And across the lifespan, we have this low and high range for all of us. Now, you've probably heard of the classic magic number 8, and this is generally where that number 8 comes from, because most adults fall under the 7 to 9 hour category, with 8 being the average. But for adults, there's a really wide range here. So anywhere from 6 to 10 hours could actually be considered normal. And for older adults, anywhere from 5 to 9 hours could be considered normal. So sleep need doesn't necessarily change that much as we get older. For older adults, yes, maybe you won't need as many hours of sleep, but for most people, that number of hours that you need stays pretty consistent. And again, there's this really wide range of sleep needs. Anywhere from 5 to 9 hours as an older adult could be considered normal. So that's 65+. Now, in terms of a perfect number of sleep, there really isn't one, but the ideal amount of sleep is the amount that helps you optimize your alertness during the day and also helps you feel like yourself during the day. So where you're not cranky, you're not irritable, you feel like yourself, you're able to get done what you need to, you're able to do your daily activities. Sleep need and sleep duration varies on an individual basis. So you might know folks who need 8 hours to sleep on a daily basis, and if they don't get it, then they don't feel great. You might know some folks who only need 5 hours of sleep and they function just fine on that. So we tend to look at sleep need in the sleep world as on this bell-shaped curve. So anywhere from 5 to 9 could be considered normal, but that middle ground there, that 7 to 8 hours, is where most people will fall. Now, I mentioned that there are some normal age-related sleep changes, and so these are some of the highlights. So starting at the top, and then we'll work our way to the bottom here. So first and foremost, stage 1 sleep. So again, that lightest stage of sleep that we all have. It tends to increase in duration after the age of 55. So meaning as we get older, we're going to be experiencing more light sleep, and this is normal. We also will experience a little bit of an increase in stage 2 sleep, which is still considered a light stage of sleep, but we may experience overall stages 1 and 2 and have a longer duration of these stages as we get older. Stage 2 stays constant throughout the lifespan, so we do end up spending the majority of our nights in stage 2 sleep. So we spend more time in light sleep. Now, deep sleep, after the age of 65, you actually don't need as much deep sleep. So there's going to be less time spent in slow wave sleep or deep sleep as adults, and even less time spent in deep sleep after the age of 65. We also end up not spending as much time in REM sleep or dream sleep as adults, and even less time after age 65. So after age 65, that really is when we don't need as much deep sleep, we don't need as much REM or dream sleep, and we end up experiencing a lot more stage 1 and stage 2 sleep, so those light stages of sleep. Wakefulness, which again is normal for all ages to experience during the night, we actually end up getting a little bit of an increase in wakefulness starting about age 45. And then even more wakefulness is experienced after age 65. So that could look like waking up more during the night, and sometimes recognizing that waking up is a normal part of the process of sleep can be helpful if you start to experience more wakefulness at night. And generally, just to kind of sum all of these changes up, in terms of older adults across the 24-hour period, sometimes sleep does get dispersed. So you may find that you're still getting maybe 7 or 8 hours on average, but it's broken up. So you might get a chunk of that at night and maybe some of that during the day in a nap or two. It also takes less time to fall asleep as we get older for most people. And sometimes older adults may notice a shift in their bedtime. That bedtime becomes a little bit earlier than usual. So now I want to briefly highlight some of the common sleep problems in older adults. One of the most common that I see is insomnia, which is generally difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, experiencing early morning awakenings, and also not having restful sleep or feeling like you're just not getting restorative sleep. So those are kind of the hallmarks of insomnia. And typically with chronic insomnia, that is experiencing these insomnia symptoms for 3 or more nights every week for 3 months or more. So that is very common. Sleep apnea is also extremely common in older adults. So sleep apnea is generally having some brief pauses in breathing. For most people, that's multiple times an hour, which results in very broken, interrupted, fragmented sleep, and is also usually accompanied with snoring, maybe waking up from snoring or gasping or choking, and also nocturia, so using the restroom more than 3 times a night on a regular basis. Sleep apnea is a chronic sleep disorder that usually is present many years before the diagnosis is even given, and it often does go hand in hand with insomnia. So if you find that snoring is really interrupting your sleep, it's definitely worth getting a sleep evaluation. And lastly, one of the other really big common sleep problems in older adults is restless legs syndrome, which is this uncontrollable urge to move either your arms or your legs or both. And it is often described as kind of a creepy, crawly sensation accompanied with pain and only improves with movement. So having to get up and kind of walk around. Restless leg syndrome is often a sign of low iron stores, but it could also be for a number of different reasons. So why are sleep problems so common in older age? Well, I'd say one of the biggest reasons is retirement. So a lot of people will have structure and have a schedule for many, many years, and then all of a sudden they retire, they don't need to have structure anymore. They don't need to wake up at a certain time anymore. So there's this lack of routine. And that also means that usually there's less social activity, maybe less physical activity in general. And that can really throw off our sleep wake cycle and our circadian rhythm. And so it is really common to develop sleep problems post retirement. Sleep problems are also really common in older age because of the increase in chronic medical conditions. So if you're navigating various health issues, that often does mean that you're on a slew of medications, usually a very long list of medications, and that can also impact the quality of sleep and maybe change sleep schedule around a little bit. Lastly, in terms of sleep problems in older age, there's an increase in mental health conditions like anxiety and depression. For example, grief and loss is also common just as folks are aging and family and friends are passing. That also can throw off our sleep-wake schedule. So now I want to get into healthy sleep. And really, when it comes to healthy sleep, this looks a little bit different for everybody, but generally, we like to remember healthy sleep by this 30-30 minute rule or minute guideline. Meaning, if you're able to fall asleep in 30 minutes or less, give or take, naturally, without sleep medication or sleep aids, that's considered a healthy amount of time to fall asleep. And also, if you're waking up during the night, keep in mind it's normal to wake up. So you want to embrace a bit of that wakefulness, but you don't want to be awake for too long. So about 30 minutes or less total time awake during the night is also considered a healthy amount of wakefulness. So 30 minutes. On the flip side, when we really take a deeper look into poor sleep, again, this looks different for everybody, but these are some of the common characteristics of experiencing not so great sleep. So lying in bed awake for hours, tossing and turning all the time, using the bathroom multiple times every night, having really broken or interrupted sleep, snoring being a big issue, whether it's disturbing your own sleep or your bed partner's sleep or vice versa. Also having an irregular schedule or not having the structure to your schedule, unrefreshing, poor quality sleep, non-restorative sleep, and then mood changes. So sleep and mood, they are directly related and they have a big impact on one another. So if you don't get great sleep, that certainly affects how you feel and your mood the next day. And then you don't feel so great, so you end up not sleeping so well. It's a vicious cycle for many folks. Last but not least, I wanted to leave you with some practical tips for better sleep, some actionable tips to sleep well. One of the biggest, which many folks are familiar with, is sticking to a routine. So even if you're retired, what I usually tell folks is you want to get back to a schedule. You want to really go back to the basics when it comes to improving sleep. So sticking with a wind down routine and a wake up routine, things that you can do things that you can do on a daily basis and incorporate to your routine are very important for maintaining good, healthy sleep. You also want to focus more on the quality of your sleep. So I know that nowadays there is an emphasis on getting a certain number of hours of sleep, which is important, but you really do want to focus more on quality as a better predictor than a certain number of hours. And as an example, I always like to give this one, wouldn't you rather get 6 hours of consolidated, great quality sleep versus 8 hours of broken, fragmented sleep? And the answer is always, yeah, I'd rather get the 6 hours of great sleep. So letting go of a certain number and just focusing on the quality of your sleep is most important. Getting morning sunlight is also a really great way to improve your sleep quality. Getting morning sunlight, so specifically within the hour after you wake up in the morning, You want to aim for like 15 minutes, give or take, of direct sunlight, which really does help to regulate and anchor your internal body clock, your sleep wake cycle. And not only that, but it helps to give you a boost of energy and help regulate your mood for the day. So, sunlight is really, really powerful when it comes to getting good quality sleep. Some other tips here. One of the best ways to really get back on a consistent routine and a consistent schedule is to anchor your wake up time, what I like to call anchoring your rise time. So, focusing on keeping a consistent wake up time every day. Less emphasis on a bedtime, although, yes, having a regular bedtime is important. Sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on having to be in bed at a certain time, and sometimes your body may not be ready to fall asleep at that bedtime. So it's more about getting into bed when you're actually ready to fall asleep and focusing more on keeping a consistent wake up time. Wake up time is something that we can control, and we can control it by using an alarm. Moving your body is also really great for improving sleep. So, physical activity has been shown in many research studies to help improve our overall sleep quality. So, moving your body on a regular basis doesn't even have to be strenuous, but just getting the blood flowing can help improve your sleep quality. And also connecting with others. So, social activity not only helps with mood and boosting energy, but it's also been shown that if your mood and energy are where they should be and you are feeling like yourself, that does help to improve the quality of your sleep. So, physical and social activity can be really, really helpful for improving sleep. Now, some other tips that you may have heard of before, these are always great for maintaining good sleep. You want to think about reducing screen time before bed. I usually recommend a screen free hour before bed because you want it to be realistic. So, aiming for the hour before and switching over to reading a book or listening to music or playing a game of some sorts, like a jigsaw puzzle or a crossword puzzle, word search, something like that, where you can really just do something enjoyable and relaxing that doesn't involve a screen. If you are using screens at night, I do highly recommend investing in a pair of blue light blocking glasses or using blue light blocking software. Nowadays, most smartphones and tablets have blue light blocking software built in. So if you haven't already put them on your phones, you definitely want to do that. I usually recommend starting after sunset and leaving on until sunrise. So, as an example, Apple products like the iPhone has a night shift setting built in. You can go in there and set it from sunset to sunrise, and then you will have that blue light protection if you're using your phone. Ideally, we want to stay away from phones and screen time, but if you do have to use them, then you definitely want to make sure you're using blue light protection. Lastly, you want to protect your sleep space. So your sleep environment is crucial. You definitely want to create a sleep sanctuary, a place that you feel relaxed, a place that you really enjoy going into. Your bedroom should be dark. Think cave-like. You want blackout curtains. You really want to block any light from coming through while you're sleeping. And then once you're up, you want to bring in the light in and get that sunlight. But while you're sleeping, you really want to make sure it's as dark as possible. You also want to make sure that your room temperature is comfortable for you. Some people like it a little bit cooler than others. It really is more about what you find comfortable and what is going to get you a good quality night of sleep. It's also important for your sleep environment to be quiet. So that goes for, sleeping with a bed partner. If they're snoring or their sleep interferes with yours, you might want to think about moving into a different bedroom or thinking about investing in noise blocking gadgets like, a big fan or a white noise machine. Earplugs are also good for blocking out noise too. So sometimes it takes a little bit getting creative. One of the other big ones that I recommend is avoiding clock watching. So, for a lot of folks who wake up during the night and don't know that waking up during the night is a normal part of the process of sleep, they often wake up and think, oh, why am I waking up? Like clockwork, I'm waking up at the same time. But waking up and looking at the clock during the night, not the best activity when it comes to really improving sleep, because looking at the clock is not a neutral activity. For most people, start to do some math. You start to think, oh man, I only slept a couple hours, or I have to be up in an hour. And that can increase worry about being awake, worry about knowing what time it is. And that, unfortunately, over time, makes your sleep and your sleep environment a very stressful experience. So, in order to get in the habit of breaking that, then you want to avoid watching the clock as much as you can. And if you're tempted, remove the clocks from the bedroom or cover them with a piece of tape. Another really great practical tip is focusing on a calm mind and body. I know sometimes this is easier said than done, but sometimes it really is all about promoting relaxation as a way to achieve better quality sleep. So for folks who struggle with sleep, there's often this effort to sleep or really trying to force sleep. So instead of trying to sleep or trying to force sleep, you want to make relaxation your goal. So think about strategies that promote relaxation and that really help you get into a relaxed state, both calm mind and calm body. And finally, if you truly are struggling and you find that your sleep is off, your sleep schedule is a little bit off, or you find that you're having problems falling asleep or staying asleep, and things aren't getting better after 3 months or so, I definitely want to encourage you to tap into some professional help, to seek support, to reach out for help. There are many different treatments available to help with sleep disorders these days. And of course, I'm a huge advocate for non-medication approaches, but medication can also be helpful for many folks as well. Now, to sum up everything and the main takeaways from today's talk here, one, in terms of sleep need and the number of hours that you need, remember that that stays pretty constant across all ages, but our sleep patterns may change. So you may notice that your sleep gets lighter as you get older. You also may notice that you wake up more during the night, and that's just a normal age-related change. You also may notice a shift in your bedtime being a little bit earlier and sleep getting dispersed throughout the daytime. Number two, daytime habits. What we do during the day has a direct influence on our sleep quality at night. So things like getting more sunlight, more sunshine, and increasing your level of physical and social activity can have a huge impact on how you sleep each night. And then number three, routine. So getting back to basics, thinking about what a consistent routine looks like for you, having a wind down routine, having a morning routine, and sticking with them, limiting screens or using blue light blocking glasses or software, really investing in relaxation and making relaxation the goal when it comes to sleep. And if you still find yourself struggling, of course, please reach out for support and see a sleep specialist. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope this information was helpful to all of you. And you can definitely find me on most social media platforms at Dr. Sarah Sleep. If you do have any further questions or if you need help finding a sleep specialist near you, I'm always happy to help.